Ducks Unlimited Television is presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting in association with Mossberg Firearms. Built rugged, proudly American.
This episode of DUTV travels to Vermont for mallards and divers with Field Hudnall and DU volunteers Matt and Dan Farnham. Then we're off to Maine for a once-in-a-lifetime sea duck adventure. World-class waterfowling next on DUTV.
So this week we found ourselves going to Lake Champlain to hunt ducks. Now, I've heard a lot about Lake Champlain, but I didn't really know much about it. I guess you could say I didn't know how big it was. If you've never been around Lake Champlain, it's 435 square miles of surface water. This is a big lake. Average depth is 60 foot deep, but there's spots up to 400 foot deep. So to say that this is an intimidating body of water is an understatement. We're hunting with Matt and Dan Farnham. These are two brothers who grew up Vermont hunting Lake Champlain.
Well, we grew up in a duck hunting family. My dad grew up on the lake, had a passion for waterfowling, and brought us up in the same way, appreciating all that the lake has to offer. We hunted in the marsh for a number of years, and then my father and mother leased the island that we hunted at for a couple of years, and an opportunity came up for them to purchase it with mainly the intent of waterfowling. And we've been growing up out there, generation to generation, and it's been a great place to grow up.
Ducks Unlimited, they're doing great things every day. We've been big supporters in Ducks Unlimited for years. We will continue to be supporters of Ducks Unlimited into the future.
This rock blind where we were going to hunt. So these rocks are actually all stacked up, and you're literally, you're sitting in a pile of rocks, and it looks awesome.
It started out more as like a rock wall. It grew larger as more people got interested in the waterfowling sport. Friends got involved. We had to make the blind larger over time, and it's developed into what it is today.
Dan and Matt, they hunt to enjoy themselves. As soon as we get in the blind, there's a big bucket of peanuts. They bring a pot of coffee down from the cabin, and as soon as they brought that pot of coffee down, I'm like, all right, we're gonna get along really well because I love my coffee. Just got out zero with a golden eye. We shot 4 golden eye, and they did it perfect. I mean, absolutely textbook. And then the rest of the day, we saw some ducks, but the action was actually pretty slow, but I actually kind of preferred it that way. It gave me time to learn, a lot more about Dan and Matt and kind of their history with their father and the island, and really get to learn their personalities. I've been on a lot of great shoot 'em ups to where next thing you know, the hunt's over and you're like, what happened? But we sat out there, we enjoyed the hunt, and really time flew by. So we filled up on lunch, we warmed our bones, got some fresh coffee. We decided to go ahead and we're gonna hunt the rest of the day. So we go back to the blind, and we didn't do any more shooting, but what we did notice is we saw a lot of puddle ducks, mallards and black ducks, working over in a cove that was kind of off the main body of the lake. And we noticed that whenever a boat would go by, we'd kick these ducks out, they would circle, they'd leave, but they'd always come back. And we're kind of thinking maybe these ducks are wanting to be kind of off the main body of the water. For the next day, we're going to get off the main body of the lake. We're going to get in some of these backwaters, shallow waters, out of the wind. Hopefully we get some mallards.
Ducks Unlimited Television, presented by Drake Waterfowl Systems, innovators in waterfowl hunting, is also brought to you by Mossy Oak Shadow Grass Blades and Ducks Unlimited's Rescue Our Wetlands campaign, banding together for waterfowl.
So day 2, we've got a completely different setup. We're hunting kind of a backwater cove off the main body of the lake, and it's all public land. In fact, once we got out there, we already saw other headlights and headlamps where guys were walking into the same cove we were going to be hunting. But it's a big cove, plenty of room for everybody. You made a heck of a shot on this one. The ducks are working. We just moved the decoys and the blind. We noticed the wind, it was right in our face. And those ducks they work, but they lock up behind us, which is never a good situation because they're coming right over the top of the blind. When they're not working, get out there and make a change. That's all you can do. You don't want to keep doing the same thing expecting different results. Now watch, Murphy's Law, the ducks will stop flying.
Or the wind will shift.
Yeah, the wind will shift.
Yeah, again, my grandfather, my father's father brought him up duck hunting. My father brought us up duck hunting. And duck hunting is a sport that you can learn a lot about life. So you're not just out hunting ducks and shooting ducks. You're getting taught a lot about how to live your life and the right way to do things. You
teach your kids, all right, get your gear ready. Here's boat safety. This is how you want to set the decoys. You're learning responsibility. You're learning hard work. You're learning camaraderie with other people.
Yeah, it's about enjoying the outdoors, catching up with friends.
Sometimes we don't realize it right away, but what we learned a lot about life, we learned in a duck blind. That was an important lesson passed down from my grandfather to my father, and now to our kids and our friends.
My suggestion to any father, parent, anybody, get your kids out waterfowl hunting because you teach them so much responsibility they don't even realize they're learning. To be honest with you, I think it's the best way you can raise your kids. Overall, our trip to Vermont, it's a trip I'm gonna remember forever. When you can go out with good people and you can enjoy yourself, the number of birds you shoot doesn't matter.
Hunting sea ducks is a bucket list adventure for many waterfowlers. A mounted sea duck makes a great trophy, but these beautiful birds are somewhat of a mystery for the waterfowl managers. Sea ducks make up 42% of all North American duck species. They include eiders, scoters, mergansers, golden eyes, buffleheads, long-tailed ducks, and harlequin ducks. 11 of the 15 sea duck species appear to be declining within some portion of their range. We know very little about the reasons for these population declines and about the ecology of most sea ducks in general. More research will be the key to understanding the complex connection among their breeding, staging, wintering, and molting habitats. Ducks Unlimited is a partner in the Sea Duck Joint Venture, which is working to better understand sea ducks and to ensure stable populations for the long term. Armed with stronger information about species ecology, we hope to be able to identify factors that are causing population declines and take steps to reverse these trends. You can learn more about these fascinating birds at ducks.org.
DU Insights is brought to you by Mossy Oak Properties. Find your favorite place at mossyoakproperties.com. DUTV is powered by Mossberg Built Rugged, Proudly American, Mossy Oak Properties, America's land specialist, and Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs.
So we just finished up our Vermont hunt, and now we're heading to Maine to chase sea ducks. Stonington is an island. It's in the Gulf of Maine, and it's right there on the Atlantic Ocean. This is a fishing town.
I'm always welcome to share the scenery, share the opportunity. I know it's a lot of people have it on their bucket list, and we've met and hunted with an awful nice bunch of people through the years. So.
I was very excited about this trip because I think waterfowl hunters in general kind of have their bucket list. The eider is one of my bucket list birds. They're such big, hardy, beautiful birds that live in some of the roughest conditions on the Atlantic Ocean. It's a bird that I couldn't wait to have a chance to get a shot at, and this is the trip that it was going to happen, and hopefully it does happen. I can't come up with the words to describe how beautiful it is, this place is absolutely awesome. Beautiful weather, beautiful sunrise this morning. We've been watching a lot of longtails, eiders, scoters, kind of all just trading out right out here off the rocks. What's crazy is, I'm not used to sitting there with binoculars looking for these birds. I mean, you can literally see these birds coming from a long ways off. And the style of hunting them is the decoys really aren't out that far. We really don't have a lot of decoys. These eiders, once they get focused in on where they want to go, they don't really pay too much attention to what's on land, what's around them, and they'll actually decoy fairly close to the bank. And you actually, as hunters, we don't have to hide that well as long as you don't move, because you got all these big rock formations, and if you just sit there and don't move, these birds really won't pay much attention to you. Movement is what will flare them off. So I'm sitting there waiting for my shot at an eider. So Brad announces to us that there's a group of eiders coming around the bend, and the shooting starts. When I shot, he kind of buckled. I knew I'd hit him, but he kept going. And these are hardy birds. It takes a lot to bring them down. He went out and kind of skidded. So we're watching him in the binoculars, and he's sitting there, and I knew he was hit. Well, then he just turns up and, was done. So I'm pretty excited about getting my eider. And then the tender boats run out there and pick up the ducks. And I'm watching him in the binoculars. He scoops it up, and I hear coming over the radio, "Who shot the drake?" Now I just instantly went from pretty excited to very excited, because when people go pick up a bird and they ask, "Who shot this duck?" it means one thing: leg band. So we're waiting on Don and Wally to bring this duck back to the island. And Brad turns to me and says, "There's a good chance that I probably banded this bird." I'm kind of like, come on. Now we're getting ridiculous. First eider, banded, and with the gentleman that, that might have banded this bird. So I'm pretty excited to call this bird in.
Yeah, what I do with eiders is I try to understand the populations, how many they are, and with hunting and the current status of the population being what it is, I want to find out what's limiting their population, so I'm studying their survival rates, and that's where I use the bands. I like hearing back from them. I've banded thousands, and I've heard back from hundreds, so it helps us.
Shoot him!
This is awesome. Turned out to be a great morning. We shot several hen and drake eiders, and just beautiful, healthy birds.
Sporting dogs face all kinds of challenging weather conditions. The dog also can become quite cold, wet, miserable If you're miserable in the duck blind and it's raining, probably your dog is as well, especially if he's unprotected. So how about a water vest? A thermoline vest will help save your dog's body temperature and make him much more comfortable. Think about a water stand to get the dog elevated above the fog line or the splashing of the water. He can see better and mark that fall. In those types of conditions, the best advice I can tell you is train as you will play. If it's snowing out, raining out, train in those conditions that he's likely to find on the duck hunt.
Duck Dog with Mike Stewart is presented by Purina Pro Plan, nutrition that performs. DUTV is powered by Biologic, scientifically proven wildlife products. Buck Gardner Calls, champion of champions. Native Nurseries, hand-selected, hand-grown plants for wildlife, with closed captioning provided by Honeybreak Lodge. World-class accommodations and wing shooting in the Louisiana Bayou.
There's a couple different types of feed calls that everybody just they want to learn and they want to know the difference in. One that I like to note on is called a chatter, and that's mostly what the ducks do in the area. I mean, you can hear them flying over and you just hear short little birds, just a. The next one is what I like to do most of the time when I'm hunting, and I feel like it's a little bit more difficult feed call to learn, and it's actually what the ducks do when they're feeding. Next thing, a lot of you hear on stage and people talk about a rolling feed call, and that's kind of what I consider more the mix in between. Guys, if you'll learn to mix all three of these in this next season and learn when to use them and when they work best for you, I'm sure it's going to bring success down to your decoy spread.
Duck Tactics has been presented by Buck Gardner Calls, champion of champions.
Day 2 comes around and it's a completely different plan. We're going to hunt a different spot and we're going to go after longtails and scoters. This spot that they were telling us about, Bill said, bring a lot of shells. So it's got to be a pretty good spot. Completely different conditions this morning. Sunny days and warm weather to overcast, and this wind is ripping. So we get out there, it's 2 islands that are fairly close together. And these longtails and scoters are basically, they're trading back and forth from where they kind of love to go feed. We don't have any longtail decoys, we don't have any scoter decoys. We just have the adder decoys, and they're happening to just kind of cut across our point. It's a shoot that if you think you're a good shot, you're about ready to be humbled. These suckers are getting it. The rule of thumb on this type of shooting is whatever your lead is that you have established, go ahead and add another 10 to 20 feet because you're probably going to need it. This is one of the most challenging forms of waterfowl gunning there is. If you don't do it on a regular basis, then it's hard to develop the style of shooting to be able to estimate the distance on the birds and the lead that you need. Don't expect to knock them down one shot right after another. Right here. Got him.
Tide chased us off, chased us back. Yeah, about 10 feet of tide this morning. We get as much as 13 feet. As the moon gets fuller as we go towards the middle part of this month, and the low tides the same way, they can be extremely low. So you have to play that. You have to play the highs and you have to play the lows. And you have to play with what they give you.
Oh man, it's been an awesome time. Back to reality. Well, Bill, I sure do appreciate everything, man. This has been an absolute blast. Yes, sir.
I know Field Hudnall will always remember the unique and improbable story of shooting his first eider in Maine. These are the kinds of experiences that make waterfowling so special. For more special experiences, please visit ducks.org. And as always, thanks for your support of DU and DUTV.